Aquarius. There are memories that don't stay quietly in the past. They don't disappear. They simply step back, waiting for a moment, quiet enough to return. An ordinary afternoon. The light feels the same as always. The city moves in its familiar rhythm. And yet, inside someone, something gently pauses. And then, a face appears. No clear reason, no real explanation. Just a feeling. As if something was never fully finished. Life keeps going. They still laugh. They still move forward. But somewhere in their thoughts, there's something they haven't quite named yet. It's not exactly about going back. Not entirely about letting go either. It's just, there's a connection that hasn't completely faded. And if you've ever walked through someone's life in a way that was real, then maybe. You understand this feeling? When someone is still thinking about you, in a way they don't fully understand themselves. So, what is really happening inside them when those thoughts find their way back? There are things in life you don't have to name, and yet they still find their way back. Not because you're trying to remember, not because you're searching for them. Just a moment, so ordinary, you almost don't notice it. A song plays somewhere in public, not too loud, not enough to interrupt your thoughts, but just enough to pull something from far away. A familiar road. You've walked it many times, nothing new, nothing special. And yet today, as the light touches the old corners, as the wind moves slowly through, everything feels different. Not because the world has changed, but because the way you feel it has. And in that moment, an image appears, very soft, very quick, but clear enough for you to realize it isn't random. You don't stop. You don't try to hold on to it. Just for a brief second, you know something still exists, and then you keep walking as if nothing happened. But deep inside, a part of you just brushed against a memory and hasn't quite let go yet. Aquarius. You may not be someone who holds on to everything. You understand how to let go. You understand how to move forward, but that doesn't mean everything that once passed through you has disappeared. There are connections that may no longer exist in the present, yet still live on a deeper level, a place that doesn't need a reason to reappear. And if this has ever happened to you, then somewhere out there may be someone else going through a moment just like this. Not necessarily thinking about you in a clear or defined way. Not an intense kind of longing, not even a plan to return, just in the middle of everything they're dealing with, there's a small pause, one they can't quite explain. A moment they stop, a passing thought, a feeling without a name, and within it, there's you. No one says it out loud, no one needs to admit it, but there are things that don't need words to be real. And maybe what's worth reflecting on isn't why it came back, but rather, what was there in that connection that was deep enough to never fully leave? Emotions don't always arrive with a clear name. There are things people can feel, but don't fully understand yet. And because of that, they aren't always spoken out loud right away. Some conversations stop halfway. And not because there's nothing left to say, but because certain things go beyond what can be expressed in that moment. An apology sometimes doesn't disappear. It stays as a thought that repeats itself in very private moments when no one is watching. And I still think about you is the same. It isn't always spoken, but it can exist in the way someone pauses a little longer when they come across something familiar, in the way they quietly compare the people who come after to something they can't quite name. And even in silence, where no message is sent, there's still so much happening inside. Because some emotions don't need to be spoken to be real. They aren't loud. They don't take over everything, but they're there, like a very subtle layer, moving quietly through unexpected moments in everyday life. Aquarius. You may not be someone who holds on to everything. You understand how to let go. You understand how to move forward without looking back too much. But what makes you different isn't about what you hold or what you release. It's about the way you once showed up in someone's life, genuinely, without trying to be someone else, without forcing yourself to fit. And that is not something easily replaced. Not everyone realizes this right away. In fact, Some people only begin to understand after everything has passed, when your presence is no longer there, when conversations become shorter, when the feeling of what once was turns into something hard to find again in the present. And then, the things that were never said begin to take shape, not to change the past, not to go back, just a slow realization is that some connections don't need many words, yet leave a lasting imprint. And some things, even when they are no longer present, continue to exist in the way a person sees themselves. So sometimes what remains is not the question, why didn't they say it? But rather, are there feelings that can only be understood after everything has already passed? And maybe the answer doesn't need to come right away. There are feelings that arrive without a clear name. People don't recognize them right away. They can't quite call it love. But it's not simple enough to be just a passing emotion either, and that is what makes it harder to understand. What confuses them isn't that you still appear in their thoughts. It's that they don't know where to place you in their emotional world. It's not entirely regret, because if it were, it would carry a clearer kind of sadness. It's not exactly a desire to go back, because if it were, they might have found a way to move closer again. But it's not letting go either, because if they had truly let go, those quiet, unexpected moments wouldn't return the way they do. It's like a space they stepped into without any preparation, a place with no clear definition, no rules, no obvious answers, just a feeling that makes them realize something in that connection was different from anything they've experienced before. It doesn't have to be intense, it doesn't have to be loud, but it's enough to stay longer than usual, enough that even as they move forward, a part of them still turns back from time to time. And maybe the most unusual part isn't what happened between the two of you. It's how that feeling isn't easily replaced. They may meet other people, they may experience new connections. Life keeps moving, things continue, new stories begin. But somewhere, there's still a very subtle comparison. Not intentional, not deliberate, just a passing sense that something once felt very unique and not easy to repeat. That lack of clarity is what makes a person think more. Because when things are clearly defined, people know where they stand, they know what to do, they know when to stop. But when a feeling doesn't fit into any clear frame, it doesn't end easily. It doesn't disappear in a clean, final way. It doesn't leave in a straight, defined line. It stays in its own quiet way, moving through unexpected moments, showing up in thoughts without a name, and sometimes becoming a question with no clear answer. An Aquarius, you may have never tried to be someone special in anyone's eyes. You were simply yourself, in the most natural way, and that is something not everyone comes across. And when someone has once touched that feeling, whether they can name it or not, somewhere within them, it continues to exist. It doesn't need to be clear, it doesn't need to be explained. It's just not quite like anything else. And maybe that's why sometimes a feeling without a name can carry more weight than a clear answer ever could. There are periods of time when everything becomes very quiet. No more messages, no more unfinished conversations, no more small signs you once recognized so easily. Life continues. Everything seems to return to normal, and from the outside, it may look like everything has come to an end. But sometimes, silence doesn't carry such a clear meaning. It isn't exactly an ending. It isn't a final answer either. It's just a space someone is moving through in their own way. There are people, when emotions become complicated, they don't know what to say. Not because they feel nothing, but because they don't fully understand what they're feeling yet. And in moments like that, silence becomes a way to stay with themselves. No need to explain, no need to respond right away. Just a pause, to sort through what's inside. Things they've never truly faced before. That silence sometimes moves slowly, sometimes lasts longer than you expect. But not because everything has disappeared. It's because some emotions need more time to be understood. Aquarius, you may already be used to moving forward. You're not someone who stays too long in things that no longer feel clear. You know when to stop. You know when to leave. And when you do leave, You don't carry much noise with you. It's just a very real kind of departure. But that kind of real leaves something behind. Not a space that's easy to notice. Not the kind of absence that can be filled right away, but a feeling that only shows up after everything is settled, when that familiar presence is no longer there, when conversations no longer continue, when things that once felt natural suddenly feel unfamiliar. And within that quiet, a person may begin to see what they couldn't see before. Not all at once, not in a single moment, but little by little, a passing thought, a feeling that appears, then fades, a memory returning when they least expect it. And slowly, all of these pieces begin to form a clearer picture, not to change what has already happened, not necessarily to lead to any specific action, just a gradual understanding that some people don't need to stay long to leave a lasting mark, and some connections don't need many words, yet make the silence that follows feel meaningful. So, if you're looking at that silence and wondering what it means, maybe the answer isn't about whether there's a clear signal or not. Maybe it lies in this: there are things that can only be understood when everything slows down, and there are emotions that only become clear when nothing is being said anymore. After all those quiet moments, a question begins to appear, not about them, not about what they're thinking or the things they never said, but about you. Where are you standing now? In your own journey, after everything that has happened? There are times we spend so much energy trying to understand someone else. Why they went silent, why they didn't come back, why everything ended where it did. But then, at some point, the questions begin to shift. They no longer revolve around the other person. They turn inward. Aquarius. You are not someone who needs validation to know your worth. You don't need someone to return to prove that you once mattered. Because there are things that don't need to be recognized from the outside, to be real. The way you loved, the way you showed up, the way you chose to stay in moments when you could have walked away. All of that is already an answer. An apology, if it comes, may make things feel lighter, but its absence does not take away the value of what you gave. And maybe what truly matters is not what you received in return, but whether you manage to not lose yourself in the process. There are connections that are not meant to last forever. They come carrying something unique. It could be a new emotion, a different way of seeing love, or simply a moment when you realize you can open your heart in a way that is real. And then they pass, not to take something away, but to leave something behind, a lesson, a shift, a different version of you. And sometimes, it is in those pauses that you begin to understand who you truly are. You no longer feel the need to shape yourself into someone who fits another person. You no longer ask whether you are enough, because you begin to realize your worth is not defined by who stays, but by how you treat yourself when no one else is there. Aquarius. There is a kind of peace that doesn't come from everything being perfect. It comes from accepting what has already happened, without needing to change it. You don't have to go back to complete an old story. You don't have to understand everything in order to move forward. You just need to be honest with yourself, with your emotions, with what you've been through, and with the person you are becoming. Because in the end, what remains is not them. It is the way you see yourself now, with a little more gentleness and a little more freedom. And then, after everything that has passed, there may still be a very quiet question somewhere inside you, whether they still think about you. Maybe, somewhere in their life, in the middle of very ordinary days, a passing thought still appears. Not for long. Not clear enough to become a decision. Just a brief moment when something reminds them and you appear in their mind in a very natural way. There may still be things left unsaid, words that were once held back, feelings that even they didn't fully understand at the time, and maybe a part of them is still moving through those things, in a slower way, in a quieter way. But all of that doesn't necessarily lead to anything specific. It doesn't mean you need to go back. It isn't a sign that everything is meant to continue, and it's not a reminder that you missed something. Sometimes, the fact that someone still thinks about you is simply a part of the story you once shared, A story that may not have lasted long, but was real enough to leave a mark, deep enough to not completely disappear with time. And that is not meant to hold you back. It's there to remind you what you once felt, what you once gave, what you once went through was real. Aquarius. You don't have to go back to prove that. You don't need a perfect ending to feel at peace as you move forward, because not every story needs a clear conclusion. Some things just need to be fully lived for a certain time, and that alone is enough. And after that, what remains is not the question, could it continue, but rather, who have I become after going through it? You have the right to keep moving forward, not to forget completely, but to carry what you've learned, more gently. A deeper understanding of yourself, a different way of loving, clearer boundaries, and a kind of peace that doesn't depend on who stays. If one day, everything is finally said, maybe it will bring a certain kind of clarity. Maybe it won't. Oh, but by then, what matters most won't be the words anymore. It will be who you've become, the person who has walked through all those emotions, who has learned how to stay with themselves when nothing felt certain, and who understands that the value of a connection is not measured by how long it lasted, but by how it changed you. So if somewhere they still think about you, let that be just a small part of a story that has already passed. And you are still writing your own story, in your own way, more slowly and more truthfully.